in 1933 was the center and the meanest part of the Depression. And I was married with 3 children. And here in town, there was nothing. Oh, the Depression was so bad. In families, you couldn't find an onion peel. Nothing, nothing at all. Starving, the world was starving. And Roosevelt, we had, who was the president? Hoover. Hoover, a Republican, was the president, and he starved the world. He starved us all. Then Roosevelt came in, was president. Right away, he told the banks to give money to certain people because Hoover stopped all banks from giving money. The millionaires, what they had in the money they couldn't use, what was in stocks went broke, and they were committing suicide left and right. They couldn't live at all. Then Roosevelt became president. He told the banks they have to give a certain percentage of their money to the people that have it there. Every month we could go pick up a little check at the bank. And then he stopped all banks from taking the property from people. All they had to pay, look at how bad the Depression was. $1 a month. If you had a new home, that's all you were going to pay for the month. Nobody lost their homes when Roosevelt became president. Nobody. With $1, they were paid. And he got all the men working 4 hours a week worldwide. They had to work cleaning streets, working for the city, and the city had to pay these men for 4 hours a week, every week. Roosevelt saved the world. Pearl Harbor was December 7th. The Japanese surprised us, attacked us on December 7th, and they hit the Arizona so hard the Arizona sunk with 2 local boys in it. And the 2 local boys, one of them was the Criscolo boy and his cousin. They both went down with the ship. That ship is still in the bottom of the ocean in Arizona.
In Pearl Harbor.
In Pearl Harbor. And the boys are still in it. They didn't move anybody. The boys are still in there. Well, during wartime, the Japanese really surprised with the attack, so the Japanese had to stay away from the ocean because the fishermen, the Japanese fishermen, they would meet with their Japanese submarines, and way out at sea, they would abandon their own local boats and get in the boats of the Japanese. And they'd go home and fight for their country. In fact, you know, lots of our boys were caught when they were at war. The darn Japanese American boys that went and fight for their country, in the dark they'd say, "Hey, Joe." And our poor boys thought it was our boys. They'd answer and they would shoot them and kill them. The Japs would shoot them because they were American boys. Before the war, Mussolini came in. He did so much for Italy. Their schools they hardly had schools. They only had till 2nd grade. And the classes, as my mother used to tell me when she was a child, they never had seats. They'd go to school for 2 hours a day, standing up. They had benches all over the room, and they'd sit with everything on their lap, a book or something, no discs or nothing like that. Isn't that something? And when Mussolini came, he put discs, and he did a lot for the schools, and a lot streets. He fixed streets, roads, made better living for the Italians, and they loved him. But then, poor guy, he got mixed up with Germany, and the people started rebelling, and it ended up very badly. They really murdered Mussolini. He did good for the schooling. He did good for the roads. Just all good for a way of living. Hitler was very, very smart, but he lost himself because he wanted he was always saying he was going to cross, for instance, Poland, a peaceful cross. And it would end like we tell him he wanted a piece of Poland. And he used to say, I'm crossing Poland to go reach another country. But in the meantime, he was taking Poland, but always on the pretense that he was crossing a certain land. And he wanted a piece of everything, not peace. And he did take a piece of every country. I can't remember the names of countries or anything anymore. But he did a lot of stealing, but he was very intelligent, he was smart. If he didn't have so many fronts, he'd have won the war. But he was greedy, and he had too many people scattered everywhere, and he lost the war. But I remember they used to say how smart he was. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. That was terrible.
No, talk about it.
Poor Japanese. They deserved every bit of it. They caught us by surprise and they paid for it. And that was the only way the war was going to end. Because they didn't, we were particular with our boys how much we'd send there getting killed. But the Japanese, they thought they were ants. They're people like little ants. They were dying by the minute. And so it had to come to an end, or everybody else would have died. Good, I'm glad they gave them it disappointed me when America paid them so much money for damages they caused for the atomic bomb. Oh. We do the damage and then we build them up. And they do the damage, they get paid for it, we built them up again, and still they hate America. Oh, when we won the war, we were so happy. There was street dancing and everything. Everybody was happy. It didn't end soon enough. And you couldn't cross downtown. The soldiers, poor things, they were dancing with joy. They'd grab anybody and dance, whether you felt like it or not. Elderly people would go by to shop or do their work, their errands and everything, pulled by everybody dancing. Kennedy.
What is it? John F. Kennedy. Yes,
John.
What did you think of that when that happened?
Oh my God, that saddened the world so much, poor thing. He was such a good man, and the first Catholic president to ever enter the White House. Such a good man. Nobody thought he was going to win. We had other presidents, Catholic, running before, not a vote. Nobody ever voted for Catholics on account of our church and the Pope. They thought that the Pope was going to run the country, and nobody ever voted. And poor Kennedy came in and they voted him. I remember Uncle Sal telling me, I happened to be in Texas one time, and a bunch of boys come out of the base, walking the streets, getting out of the base, going home. Big groups of boys, all in rhythm. We want Kennedy, walking down the streets wherever they went. And Kennedy won. And poor thing, they had to kill him. Where I was when he died, we were in Salinas, weren't we? In the Woolsworth. And all of a sudden we hear, he died. And everybody started crying. And we were asking what happened. We didn't even know that it happened. A beautiful man. And he had lots of things in mind for us.